Hi, and welcome to the Commissioner's Report. I'm your host, Jeff Foley, and I'm joined today by two gentlemen who really don't need an introduction. We'll do it anyway. Welcome, Commissioner Combee and Sheriff Grady Judd. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
It's my honor to be with you today.
Thank you. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Sheriff Training Center at Burnham-McCall today. To get started, Commissioner, why don't you tell us a little bit about why training is so important for law enforcement?
Well, I'm not the expert. Obviously, the sheriff can tell you more about that, but I can tell you that just intuitively, common sense and logic tell me that in this day and age that we've got to have the best training available, the best training known to, you know, man, woman, child, where deputies, when they're out, are prepared for anything and everything, because that's what they're facing these days, absolutely everything. And when I was in the legislature, there was, I had a bill there that I was running for the Police Chiefs Association, and it was for small agencies to restart the law enforcement training fund payments that made money available to those small agencies for training. Obviously, here in Polk County, Sheriff Judd, it's not a small agency, and they've been training folks for a long time, and doing absolutely, you know, the best anybody can do with training. And now we're at a point now where we're going to have a facility that the sheriff will talk about. But I go back to my dad worked actually with Sheriff Crow, was a partner with Sheriff Crow, who was sheriff before Sheriff Judd, and at LPD. And my father-in-law, he was a captain with the sheriff's department, and so I have a real love for law enforcement and what they do. And I will tell you that I couldn't do it. I'd get fired before noontime. I mean, I couldn't do what they do, and it takes a special kind of person. But I think more than just a special kind of person, it takes training. You can't just, you know, the days are gone where you could give somebody a gun and a badge, think, hey, he's a good guy, you know, he'll go out and or she, in this case, we've got a lot of female officers these days, but you got to make sure that they understand what's waiting for them out there. And I think about the sovereign citizen situation where two deputies were shot recently. Thank God both of them are going to live, and but you know, they're going to be a long time coming back from that, but you know, at least they're alive. But it's hard to prepare for something like that, but you certainly want to try to, and you do that with training, and there's a need for a facility, and look at what we have. But I read a book back in 2016, the War on Cops, and Heather McDonald, she's a criminologist and a writer, and written a number of books. But I remember one thing she said in there, that the two toughest jobs in the United States today is an inner city police officer or inner city school teacher. So it doesn't get any harder than that anywhere in the world, no matter what. If you're shoveling manure all day, you still don't have it as bad as those folks that are in those situations. And you know, like everybody else, I see the newspaper articles, I see the news on television, and you think, man, how do you prepare for that? And like I say, a lot of things you can't prepare for, but I don't think there's any question that you do the very best you can, and then, you know, pray to the good Lord that they come home at night. That's always a big issue in law enforcement families, especially when you got little kids. You know, yeah. I remember, you know, when my dad would go out the door, I think it was like, you know, we sure hope he makes it back, and because you just didn't know. And that was in the old days. That was almost like Mayberry around here then. And this is 2024, and believe me, it's not Mayberry anywhere around here anymore. So I'm happy that the sheriff, I don't know how many of these I've done, but I'm happy to get him over here, and hopefully our ratings will go up, and we'll get a lot of views on this, and people will understand, one, you know, what kind of training programs we have, but two, how this facility will really meet the needs of the county for decades, I'm sure.
So Sheriff Judd, can you give me kind of the nuts and bolts of the new facility, where it is, how it's different from what we had in the past, and how it helps Polk County Sheriff Office?
Certainly. First and foremost, there's not a police agency in this nation that's any more fortunate, and most of them aren't as fortunate as we are, because we have a board of county commissioners that do and always have, since I've been sheriff, supported law enforcement because if you're not safe and you don't feel safe, nothing else matters. So Commissioner Combee and his colleagues have made sure that we had the resources that we need to keep everyone safe. And none of that can happen without the appropriate training. We train over 150,000 hours a year at that campus. About 100,000 hours a year are sheriff's office employees. The rest of it is other local, state, and federal employees that we train with. And do you know that if you look at our facility today, the old facility that we're still in, we have portable classrooms that were given to us by the school board after the school board wore them out. Those portables are 30, 40, some as old as 45, maybe 50 years old. They were worn out, we rehabbed them, we put air conditioning in them. Now some of them are eaten up with termites. There's one that we've laid plywood on the floor to make it work. And there's another one that blew away in the last hurricane. I went to the Board of County Commissioners and I said, you know, I'm frugal, but we're at the end. We've got to have some help. They immediately said, yes, we'll build. We're going to have 12 classrooms in this new facility. And it's going to be absolutely remarkable. It's set up with the current technology. So when a young deputy comes there, they come there with their laptops and they have immediate connectivity so that they can operate online, because all of our work now is through computer programs. But that's what keeps the law enforcement officers safe, and that's also what keeps the community safe when we are well trained. And we have worked these classrooms till they won't work anymore. So I am eternally grateful for Commissioner Combee and his colleagues that have gone above and beyond to make sure that we not only have a new facility, but it's a state-of-the-art facility. And our county manager, Bill Beasley, was so important in this process because he has a great deal of experience in how to build. So at the end of the day, when you see a well-trained deputy out there, know that we have a Board of County Commissioners that recognizes what's important.
So Commissioner Combee alluded to this, I think, that your officers are likely to face everything under the sun nowadays. So what type of training happens? How do you prepare them to go out into the world and deal with the issues that they face?
Well, the training is immense, and it's everything from customer service. And we start out by saying you've got to be honest, ethical, and moral. You've got to deliver customer service with a sense of urgency, and you've got to talk to and treat people like you'd want your mother talked to and treated. If we have to raise our voice or be stern with someone in the community, they need to make us have to use that authority. If we have to use chemical agent or tasers or, God forbid, on that rare occasion, a firearm, the person we're interacting with that we have to arrest, that we have to take into custody, makes us use that level of protective action. But how do you train it to make sure you know when to do what and how to do what? And you also need to know when not to do something and when not to use force. So all of that is intense training, and it's not only on the pistol range, but most of it's in the classroom. It's studying everything from law and best practices to de-escalation techniques to how to communicate, how to calm down a situation. And we calm down thousands and thousands and thousands of situations. So for every one that makes the news where we had to use what we call protective action or force to take somebody into custody, there's thousands upon thousands of times that we were able to calm the situation down. And here's what it all boils down to. Society hires law enforcement to keep control of situations that they've lost control of. And when they've lost control and they can't do anything with a situation, then they call us to fix it. And sometimes people don't cooperate, and we have to use physical fitness techniques, i.e. holding somebody down, handcuffing them, tasing them in order to get them in custody. We don't prefer that, and the folks make us do that, but you've got to provide the very best training. We couldn't provide any of this training if it weren't for Commissioner Combee and his colleagues that make sure that we have the resources, and I'm grateful.
Well,
So,
I'm glad to hear that we're going from 50-year-old portables to a state-of-the-art facility. I think the point the sheriff makes, and again, anybody, if you think about it a little bit, the last thing that they want to do is get into physical wrestling match or altercation with folks. They would prefer compliance. And I tell my boys, and I'll tell my grandkids, just do what they say and everything, you'll be fine. It'll all work out if you ever get in a situation like that. But when you see people who, I was watching a program the other night, never seen it before. I guess it's new, but it may be a rerun. It may be something I just didn't catch before. Like Cops, but it's not Cops. It was something, I don't know, something 911.
Live
something.
911.
What was it?
Live 911.
Maybe. Yeah, and it was like, oh my goodness, I don't know how. Like again, I'd be fired by noontime because I don't know how you develop patience. And I guess somehow or another you all do train people to be more patient. And maybe that would, if I had a few of those classes and was in law enforcement, maybe I'd understand that, yeah, maybe there's hope for me after all. But when those people start, cussing and swinging and getting unruly, I'd probably be a little too much of a hair trigger kind of guy. And I watched some of that, and this girl, I don't know what her problem was. She was drunk for one in the middle of the street, but she was just screaming expletives at this policeman who maintained his cool and did let her go. But I wouldn't let her go. I can tell you that right now. So anyway, I appreciate the hard work that y'all put into it, and I know that there's time-tested programs that probably help get that done. I know that
Sure.
that you all have them, and you go through that. But it's just a tough job, and I don't think. You said it a minute ago, and again, it's something if you just think about it a little bit. If there weren't any bad people, if there weren't any criminals running around, you wouldn't need policemen. But the fact that there are bad people and there are folks who are just natural-born criminals, we got to have these guys to stand between us and the bad guys. And we certainly want to make sure that they're well trained. And I think the idea of having, like you say, the state-of-the-art facility, it's going to do what we need for a long time here in the county.
And it's obviously working. I know I've heard, Sheriff Judd, I've heard you say that we're at, I believe, a 50-year low for crime in Polk County. So obviously what you're doing is working and what the commissioners are doing is working.
Well, our crime is at a 50-year low, but good things don't happen by themselves. Good things happen when good people work together. Our community works with us. We work with the Board of County Commissioners. We work with other law enforcement agencies. And crime is at a 50-year low because we all care about the community and we're all doing our part. So good things don't just happen. Good people have to make good things happen. And our commissioners are making great things happening right now in this county because they're great commissioners and they focus on what's in the best interest of the community. And we know if you're safe and you feel safe, you thrive. The community thrives, and we're evidence of that in this county. But it takes leadership, and that's what we have from Commissioner Combee and the other commissioners.
So I know you're in the middle of a really nice long run as a law enforcement official. Talk to me a little bit about how the training has changed from when you were a young officer to what young officers go through now.
It is nothing like when I first began.
He's been here 50 years now. We're in 51 now, right?
Yeah, we're in 52.
52.
We'll be 52 this July. I tell everyone I started just about the time the dinosaurs disappeared from the face of the earth, but me and the alligators are still left, okay?
And snapping turtles.
And snapping turtles. We had 280 hours of training at the police academy and 4 days in a patrol car before they put us out by ourselves. Today there's thousands of hours of training before we let a deputy go out and work by themselves, because the job is that much more complicated today than it was way back in the day. And I am blessed, I'm excited to tell you that every day is a challenge, but these young men and women today are better trained and better equipped than any time in history. That's why crime's down. That's why they're safe. Our 2 deputies that were shot in the line of duty and survived because of the superior training that they received at our training facility by great trainers that work with us. But none of that happens by itself. And no one thinks at the time, gosh, they survived this shooting, thank God, and that God gets all the credit for that. But nobody trickles it back to the money folks that made it happen, because without the money, you don't have the resources. Without the resources, you don't have the labor. Without the labor, you don't have the talent. Without the talent, you don't have the training. So it all ties together. And that's what makes this community so great. And this community supports us. It's easy to go out and stand in the gap between good and evil and support the people of this community, because they're so awesome, and they support the commissioners and they support us. That's why it works.
The one other thing, and I know you're doing, training, I'm sure related to it, but is like mental health these days. And they talk about mental health issues prior to COVID-19, but since then, especially with younger folks, they say it's just really almost epidemic with mental health issues with young people. And I think back to when the first few days of the COVID, and the guy was saying, whatever you do, don't touch your face. It'd be easy enough for young people to be scared and like, what's going to happen to us now? The world's coming to an end. Well, we know the world didn't end then, and it still hadn't ended, but it's caused a lot of people, I think, to maybe fear, and maybe some of it's subsiding, I don't know. But I know that was would certainly create a challenge when you have a lot of folks that with mental health issues, create a challenge for law enforcement, because we don't have facilities we used to have. We do things differently than we did even 20 years ago, maybe, when you had facilities for people, and now they decided that was maybe not the best way to handle it, so now they just get turned out on the street.
Well, Commissioner, think about this. Mental health issues are at an all-time high. Suicides are at an all-time high. Guess why? Drug addiction's at an all-time high. People are illegally using drugs, and they're self-medicating with drugs. So do we have a problem? Yes. When people are looking for illegal drugs, they break in, they rob, they shoot. So at the end of the day, mental health issues are at an all-time high. We have to address that, and we're doing that. And the Board of County Commissioners, that's another topic for another day, is helping fund that. Our suicides, not just in this county, around this state, around this nation, are at all-time high, but it all coincides because our abuse of drugs and our drug addictions at an all-time high.
And I think you're right. It is a show we could do an entire half an hour on easily. I know that you are committed to getting the drugs off the street, and I know that your folks do that in great numbers. I think that is critically important. I wanted to touch for a second on the way your officers treat people. So through my job, I've had the opportunity to see them in action a couple times. And I have seen your officers get out on a 95-degree day and change tires for teenagers that don't know how to do it. I've seen them handle somebody having an extreme nervous breakdown with kid gloves and treat them with respect. And I hope they get the respect that they deserve in the community for doing that. I think obviously the training that happens at this center and beyond is obviously very effective. I've been very impressed with the folks that I've met that work for the Sheriff's Office.
Our deputies are simply the very best, and they're the best trained, and that's because, once again, of the partnerships. It's because of the Board of County Commissioners. But we love this community. And quite frankly, when all this hate on the cops was going on nationwide and you'd watch it on national news, none of that came to us. Just the opposite. We'd go into a restaurant to eat lunch wearing a uniform, somebody pick up the bill. They would bring signs to the Sheriff's Office and to our police department saying, we love our police, and bringing food to us. Mm-hmm. So our community has wrapped their arms around us too. Make no mistake about it. This is a really fantastic community and a really great county to live in, but it's based upon the leadership.
I think it all works hand in hand.
It does.
Anything we're not discussing in regard to the training center in particular that you want to touch on before we close?
I don't think so.
Should be open by the fall.
Fantastic.
I want to thank the sheriff, one, for, I won't say demanding it, but certainly asking for it and letting us know how important it is and how much better off we'll all be if we have the proper folks properly trained out standing between the good and evil, as you said. So thank you, Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jeff.
Well, I appreciate everything you guys and the whole commission and all the officers do to keep our community safe and our children safe. Thank you. That's it for this episode of the Commissioner's Report. I'm your host, Jeff Foley, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to subscribe and like our social media.